when he died in that mansion in 1942, something that the witnesses really don't know a lot about, because they sold Beth Surim very quietly in 1948. Okay, so that's something that the witnesses don't know about, that Rutherford did, building a mansion for himself and lying and saying that it was for Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As a minister of the gospel of peace, you cannot do that. Proverbs chapter 8, verses 1, 2, and 3 says this. Doth not wisdom...
Is this the verse now?
Yes.
Okay,
Doth not wisdom cry, and understanding put forth her voice? That's verse 1. Now this is verse 2. She, okay, standeth in the top of high places, by the way, in the places of the paths. Verse 3. She crieth at the gates, at the, okay, entry of the city, at the coming in at the doors. 2 times it calls wisdom as she. So you can't take 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and say, Christ has made unto us wisdom, and then you link it to Proverbs chapter 8. Oh, he was brought forth. You can't do that, because it's called a she. And nowhere Jesus is called a she in the Bible. It's just really amazing what people do to interpret the scriptures. It's like they take a concordance, and that's the rule of thumb how to interpret the Bible, and you can't do that, though. Jesus is not a she.
I'm looking at the Hebrew Old Testament. I have an app called QBible.com, and I'm looking right at the Hebrew. And the Hebrew does not translate the word her.
Well, I didn't say her. I said she.
It doesn't translate the word she either.
What text you have? Give me the text. You can't say, give me facts.
Well, what I'm saying is that I don't know if you've heard of QBible.com. You can go on it.
Well, I don't really like to just take everything at face value on the internet. I mean, let's go.
Well, you got to understand something. This is all I have.
Yeah.
I'm not a Greek scholar. I don't have anything else.
Yeah, no,
so I can only
I understand that. But you have let me see, right over here. I'm trying to get it in. I
mean, it clearly says in the transliteration her. I'm looking right at it. She, her, with the New World Translation says it. But I'm looking here, and there is no Hebrew word for her or she in the text. I mean, I'm looking right at the Hebrew.
Yeah.
The word is, the first word translated in 8:2 in English is she standeth. That's what it says. When I look into the Hebrew, the first word I see is called marom.
Mm-hmm.
And it means an elevated place. See, they translated the word standeth, but they didn't translate the word she.
No,
and verse 3, the same word, she crieth. They don't translate it. So where do they even get the word she or her to add in there? Because it wasn't written by the Hebrew scribe. So where does the word come from? Did they just insert it because it makes sense?
No, it's just that's what the text is. Let me while you're talking, I'm just trying to get something over here. I don't want to talk too much.
Well, I'll do the talking while you're looking then.
Mm-hmm.
I see the word she, I see the word her,
yeah,
and I see the word she again.
Yes.
But now, when I see the word crieth, standeth, and not,
yeah,
there is a number, a Strong's Concordance number that I can click on, and it'll take me right to all the definitions.
I have Strong's. I have the exhaustive right on my desk over here.
What it does not give me in all three of those occurrences, the first word is her voice, 69:63. That's for voice. Then it goes, she standeth. It gives me 53:24. It's for standeth. Then it goes to verse 3, she crieth. 74:42. It's for the word crieth. In all those instances, it doesn't give me where I can look at an actual Hebrew word for her, she, and she.
Well,
where does that word come from?
Well, I suggest that you look at let's look at another translation, okay? Let's look at another translation. Very respectable. Now, if you know the difference between the NIV and the NASB, which are the best translations in the market, period. I mean, you have a word-for-word translation in the NASB, word for word. You know, that's a formal equivalent translation, word for word. And then you have the NIV, which is a thought for thought. And then I know you know that thought for thought translation, which is a dynamic equivalent translation of the Bible. The NIV is, and the NASB is a formal equivalent translation of the passages. And these are what the experts translate from the Hebrew, the NASB chapter 8, which is very literal, and that's why King James advocates complain sometimes, oh, well, you don't have this and you don't have that. Okay, fine. But in the NASB, it says it very clearly. It says, in verse 2, it says, on top of the heights, beside the way, it says, where the paths meet, she, and it's not italicized. Now remember, every time where a King James word is not in the Hebrew or Greek, or the NASB has it in italics, okay, it's not in the original Hebrew or Greek. Obviously it is, because the NASB committee, this is a committee now, and they put italicized words when it's not in the text. And it says over here, she takes her. It's even worse. She takes her stand. You even had the two of them in there. I didn't even see this before. I'm going to use this again. I'll tell you this right now. Verse 3 says, beside the gates at the opening to the city, not of the entrance of the door, she cries out, and it's not italicized. Now, you said very carefully that we can only go by what we have. So, if you can only go by what you have, then I'm here to tell you that this translation of the NASB says she, her, she, like exactly the way I said it, and this is a word-for-word of a formal equivalent translation of the Bible. That's just it.
Buddy, I'm looking right here at the Hebrew. I'm actually looking at Hebrew characters, and there is no word for he in the Hebrew.
I didn't say he, I said she.
There's no word for she. I'm looking right at it.
I don't know, but the thing is that you don't know what kind of text you're looking at. I mean, what kind of Hebrew text? I mean, you don't know what kind of Hebrew text you're looking at there. So,
well, what else do I have?
Well, no,
you're telling me one thing, but I'm seeing another. I'm saying, what else do I have?
Well,
you want me to take your word for it?
You know, I understand that, but what I'm saying is that clearly, you know, it's first of all, Jesus, if it was there, Jesus is not an it anyway. So it doesn't say the newer translation says it, which is a neuter, right? So it doesn't even because Jesus is not an it. So it's
well, hold on a second now. According to B.V. Warfield and James White, Jehovah God is a what? So if you can call Jehovah God a what, God, why can't you call Jesus an it?
Well, I don't know. First of all, who's listening to James White? I mean, I love James. I mean, nice.
What about B.B. Warfield then?
Okay, B.B. Warfield, I respect more, of course, absolutely. I mean,
he's the one that said it.
Okay, but
I read that for myself out of the Forgotten Trinity.
I understand that we have our favorite Bible teachers and stuff like that. I have Dr. Barnhouse, Walter Martin, and stuff like that. I understand all that. But when we're coming to Scripture, we don't say, well, he, she said this. I don't care who said what. I'm saying what the Bible, the NASB formal equivalent translation is a formal equivalent translation, the best in the market, the NASB, in formal equivalency, if you really know your stuff. So I'm giving you here that it's not in italics. And not only that, the King James Version, okay, I'm not saying that it's a standard, but I'm just saying they are champions of having things italicized when it's not in the Hebrew. The she, at least they did, at least Chatterton, Smith, John Reynolds, Richard Bancroft, Lancelot Andrews, and so on. At least they did a good job. It wasn't italics at that time. It was just small letters in 1611. At least they did a good job, okay, in giving you words that are italics that were not in the Hebrew. Like, for example, Isaiah 26, I think it is. You know, when Gail Riplinger beefs and whines and complains and says, well, the NIV and NASB doesn't have this. Of course, so the King James has it in italics anyway. It wasn't in the Hebrew.
I'm just saying I can't see it, so I can't study it. I don't know if it should be translated as it, or a she, or a him. Now, I've dealt with this before, and I'm trying to find the page in this book.
Yeah.
When you're personifying things in the Bible, many things are personified, by the way. Rocks are personified. I mean, things are personified. God is spoken of as anthropomorphologically as having a nose, eyes, a hand,
yeah,
a
Psalm
foot.
91.
And we know he doesn't have those things like we do, but it's anthropomorphological. It's a way for us to grasp God in our minds because that's how he created our brains to think.
Well,
so when you go to Proverbs and you start talking about personification, and the New World Translation is not the only translation that translates it it.
Yeah, well,
there are other translators out there besides the New World Translation that do the same thing.
Yeah, no, I don't have any issue with that. But what I'm trying to say is that you can't link up, okay, 1 Corinthians and say that Christ is wisdom in the sense that Proverbs chapter 8 has him as wisdom, and therefore he was brought forth because
I say you can.
And the problem is because the doctrine of the Watchtower Society, and I have to go back to the Watchtower Society because they're calling the shots, okay? Not the people in the Watchtower. They decide the doctrine, and you guys got to live by it, whether you like it or not. I mean, that's how it is with them, you know.
I'm free to make my own decision right here, right now, at 9:50 at night, right here.
Yeah. So,
and I'm saying, based on my personal study, I see a prophecy in Proverbs chapter 8, just like you would in Psalms. It's the same thing. This fits Jesus. I was beside him as a miracle worker. I was the one specially fond of by day. What does that make me think of? God said, "This is my son, the beloved. I have approved him."
Yeah, but you also
say, but you
this
also, is my son.
Yeah, but you also, yeah, but you're also calling. They also, you know, well, not they, but you see Solomon call wisdom a necklace. You know, for the person's neck. So is Jesus a necklace now that he's over the neck of people and he's jewelry? Because that's what Solomon says that wisdom is an ornament around your neck. So what? Jesus is a piece of jewelry now? So that's the.
If you're speaking metaphorically, yes.
I mean, come on. I mean, listen. He wasn't brought forth because number one, you can't even find me a verse in the Bible that says that Jesus is the Archangel Michael. First of all, let me just say something about that real quick, okay?
Okay, I don't know about Michael the Archangel.
Well, let me just give you this, and then you can answer whatever you want to do. Now, whatever you believe, the Watchtower Society says that Jesus is the Archangel Michael, and that's in what is that book that I have on my shelf over here?
Do you know why they say that? Do you know why they say that?
Yeah, well, let me just think of the book that Reasoning from the Scriptures and other volumes. First of all,
I agree with that.
Okay, first of all, Michael is found 15 times in the Bible. Okay, 10 times it refers to other beings that are not angels, and you see that from. Let me just finish. You see that from Numbers chapter 13, verse 13, all the way to Ezra. Chapter 8, verse 8. That has to do those 10 passages with people who are not angelic beings. Okay, now we go to the last 5 in the Bible because there are only 15. So we have Daniel, which means God is my judge, by the way. Daniel chapter 10, verse 13, verse 21, Daniel 12:1, Jude verse 9, and Revelation chapter 12, verse 7. Speak of an angelic being. None of those passages speak of prophecy that concerns the Lord Jesus Christ at all. None of them. As a matter of fact, you have 2 angels specifically mentioned, Gabriel in chapter 9 of Daniel and Michael in those chapters that I referred to, chapter 10 and chapter 12. If you
you said Ezra 8:8. I'm looking at it. That has no reference to Michael the Archangel.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I just said. Numbers.
I'm not following you. I don't understand your reasoning. What are you trying to say?
My reasoning is this: that from Numbers 13:13 all the way to Ezra 8:8, It doesn't
Okay.
refer. It refers. There are Michael references, but that Michael is not an angelic being. From those
I agree
all of
with
those
that.
verses, those are 10 verses. Now we only have 15. We only have 15 to deal with, so we got rid of 10.